Bom dia, buenos dias, and good morning. In this presentation, we will talk about the impact of lockdown on the exhibition of Portuguese cinema, starting to talk about Portuguese cinema and its audience, and then analyzing the impact of the pandemic on the film industry, and then the alternatives adopted by Portuguese identities to keep its films in circulation, while the traditional forms of display were suspended. Here, we are going to talk about distribution alternatives such as streaming, on-demand video platforms, and online video clubs that were used by both Portuguese producers and film festivals. Portuguese cinema had a drastic change due to the fall of censorship in 1975. Although the revolution provided new freedom for the audience, it did not prevent this art from a strong economic regression and cutback of exhibition spaces. Despite the difficulties, an alternative to movie theaters has emerged. Portuguese films have become accessible throughout the country due to media such as television and the internet. The movie theaters, as a response, endure on high-quality technologies to attract the audience through visual equipment and sound systems. Unfortunately, the market is decreasing, and today the percentage of Portuguese audience who watch Portuguese films is the smallest national cinema public in Europe. In the context of a self-sufficient economy, without an audience, national cinema finds it more difficult to raise finance. Nós Luz ao Mundo Movie Theaters, the biggest Portuguese distribution company, in the period between 2004 and 2021, was responsible for 53% of the total number of spectators, but this company rarely exhibits Portuguese cinema, which leads to a break in the efforts of national producers to stabilize the market and, wherefore, promotes audiovisual fast food. As Portuguese cinema did not define its place in the traditional market, its films began to circulate in film festivals, DVD format, and homemade alternatives such as video on demand, video clubs, and streaming. Film screenings on multiple platforms are allowed not only to premiere films but also to reproduce classics and thus bring the identity of national cinema to the contemporary audience. To reduce the rising risks of COVID-19, governments around the world adopted strategies and restrictions that affected countries at economic, political, social, and cultural levels. These limitations have changed the way cinema is consumed due to the closure of movie theaters, cancellation or postponement of festivals, and film releases were moved to further dates or delayed indefinitely. Distributors invested in alternatives such as drive-in exhibitions, television, and spreading online access. Although these methods proved to be efficient, they did not solve the issue of screening in film festivals. In need of distribution, each festival adopted medium-adaptable strategies, such as linking to streaming services, schedule exhibits through private websites, and the availability of films by the purchase of a ticket online, trying to cover the greater audience possible with different time availabilities. Besides these alternatives, some festivals did in-person sessions, respecting the national health recommendations. Examples of film festivals that used different display options were Doc Lisboa, a festival that used its own platform, Curtas Vila do Conde, that used filming and on-demand Portuguese platform, Monstra Festival, that had an hybrid format, having both online and in-person sessions. Queer Lisboa and Queer Porto had only in-person sessions, and Indie Lisboa had indoor and outdoor in-person sessions. In Portugal, the video club strategy was adopted to raise money for the professionals of the União Audiovisual, whose jobs were affected by the pandemic context. This initiative, called Filmes para a União, consisted in the creation of a video club where films were made available through the Vimeo platform, with the intention that the value of the rental of the films reverted to the União Audiovisual. In the streaming and home cinema alternatives, only the national companies Legend Main Films and Films for You, specialized in home cinema distribution, were the companies with a rising gross revenue and number of spectators during the movie theater's closure. Concerning the international streaming platforms, exhibitors, and television channels, a new law was created aiming to charge fees corresponding to 1% of the profit that these entities get by operating in Portugal. The law will take effect in 2022, and the purpose of this clause is that the fee imposed will be received by ICA to grow the audiovisual sector in Portugal. Despite the number of spectators and gross revenue of movie theaters having plummeted, the new strategies adopted in the pandemic period foster new forms of distribution and exhibition that were unimaginable before the present context, and through these experiences, Portuguese cinema was able to continue in circulation, even with its audience far from movie theaters. Thank you.